Stephen A. Smith just dropped a bombshell that has the WNBA front office scrambling. And before you click away thinking this is just another hot take, understand that what he revealed isn't just about Caitlin Clark's future. It's about a billion-dollar threat that could dismantle women's basketball as we know it. The headlines are screaming that Stephen A. confirmed a massive Saudi League deal. But here's what's actually happening, and it's somehow even more significant. Stephen A. didn't confirm a deal. He confirmed a nightmare scenario that the WNBA has been trying to ignore for months. Let's filter out the noise and connect the dots, because the real story here exposes how badly the league has mishandled their most valuable asset. We're talking about reports, still unconfirmed, that the Saudi Public Investment Fund is watching the WNBA's internal chaos and seeing an opportunity worth billions. And Stephen A.'s recent commentary isn't validating a done deal. It's validating that the market will eventually correct itself when a generational talent is being paid $76,000 while generating millions in revenue. If you believe the story behind the story matters, smash that like button. It tells us we're on the right track. Here's what Stephen A. Smith actually said that has everyone panicking. He didn't announce a signing. He issued a warning that the WNBA has created the exact conditions that make a hostile takeover not just possible, but inevitable. He's been screaming about this for months. While other analysts were playing nice and pretending the physical altercations against Caitlin Clark were just competitive spirit, Stephen A. called it what it was: jealousy and mismanagement. He went on national television and said, "You cannot suppress a superstar in a system that pays her less than a middle manager when her market value is in the hundreds of millions." He pointed out the absurdity of Clark flying commercial, getting targeted with hard fouls, and being left off the Olympic team despite breaking every attendance and viewership record in sight. But his most recent statements have shifted from criticism to prediction. He's essentially saying the market always finds a way. When you have a player generating the kind of revenue Caitlin Clark generates, someone will eventually offer what she's actually worth. And if that someone isn't the WNBA, it will be someone else. That someone else, according to multiple reports circulating in sports media circles, could be backed by the deepest pockets in global sports. Many of you have been saying this for weeks in the comments. You've watched the WNBA veterans treat their meal ticket like an enemy. You've seen the hard fouls go uncalled. You've witnessed the petty jealousy disguised as grit. And you've been asking the same question: how long until she just leaves? Stephen A. Smith has essentially answered that question, not with a confirmation of a done deal, but with a reality check that should terrify the league. He knows that loyalty ends where disrespect begins. He's watched this exact scenario play out before in other sports. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, because this is where the loyalty argument completely collapses. The WNBA has a strict salary cap. Caitlin Clark signed a 4-year rookie deal worth roughly $338,000 total. That breaks down to about $76,000 for her first season. To put that in perspective, there are NBA bench warmers making that amount every single week. The WNBA's response has always been the same. We don't have the revenue. They've claimed the league has operated at a loss for 27 years. But here's the part that Stephen A. keeps hammering home. Caitlin Clark fixed that problem in 3 months. Since she was drafted, attendance has exploded. Jersey sales have shattered records. TV ratings are hitting numbers the league hasn't seen in decades, if ever. She is personally generating millions of dollars in new revenue for a league that's paying her what amounts to entry-level salary at a tech startup. This is the disconnect that Stephen A. has been screaming about. And it's this exact disconnect that makes external threats so dangerous. When Stephen A. talks about market correction, he's referencing basic economics. If someone is worth $10 million but you're paying them $76,000, eventually someone else will notice. And if that someone else has unlimited resources and no loyalty to the existing structure, you have a problem. We're getting into rumor territory here, but sources across sports media are reporting that the Saudi Public Investment Fund has been conducting quiet analysis of women's basketball, not as fans, as investors looking for market inefficiencies. And the biggest inefficiency in sports right now is Caitlin Clark's compensation compared to her actual value. The Saudi PIF deals in billions, not thousands. They don't see a rookie who needs to pay her dues. They see a global icon being systematically undervalued by 99%. If the reports circulating are accurate, and we need to emphasize these, remain unconfirmed, the offer wouldn't be a salary increase. It would be a complete paradigm shift. Multiple sources are whispering about numbers that would make Ice Cube's $5 million offer look like pocket change. We're talking about wealth that would dwarf the combined career earnings of every WNBA veteran who's been throwing elbows at her. And when you place that theoretical offer next to $76,000, there's no decision to make. There's just math. But here's what makes Stephen A's warnings even more credible. This isn't his first time watching this movie. He covered what happened with LIV Golf. The PGA Tour controlled professional golf for decades. They controlled the players, the schedule, and the money. Then the Saudis didn't try to negotiate or work within the system. They just bought the players. Guys like Phil Mickelson and Dustin Johnson got offers worth hundreds of millions just to show up. The media called it sports washing. Fans called the players greedy. But the players took the money, and eventually the PGA Tour had no choice but to merge. The same playbook is theoretically being studied for women's basketball. Stephen A sees the same conditions. The WNBA is vulnerable. The players are dramatically underpaid. Travel conditions have been substandard for years. The stars, particularly the new star, have been treated with hostility rather than celebration. It's the perfect environment for disruption. Reading between the lines of Stephen A's commentary, he's not reporting news. He's reporting inevitability. If the WNBA continues down this path, treating their most valuable player like a threat instead of a gift, someone else will make her an offer she can't refuse. And when that happens, it won't just be Caitlin Clark who leaves. The rumor mill, and we want to be transparent, that much of this is still speculation, suggests that any breakaway league would need more than just one star. You need rivalry. You need a supporting cast. You need marketability. This is where names like Sophie Cunningham keep surfacing in these discussions. Why Sophie? Multiple sources point to her massive social media following, her gritty playing style, and her understanding of personal branding. She represents the new generation of WNBA player, unapologetic, stylish, and skilled. If you're building a dream team to launch a competing league, you want faces that sell tickets globally. Stephen A has referenced this marketing calculation before. Sports is a business, and you need stars who move merchandise. Caitlin Clark moves merchandise. Sophie Cunningham moves merchandise. The strategic thinking behind pairing them isn't complicated. You create a dynamic that covers all demographics while stealing the WNBA's most valuable commodity, attention. Now let's talk about why Caitlin Clark would even consider leaving the league she dreamed of playing in, and I want to hear from you in the comments. If you were in her position, making $76,000 while being physically targeted every game, would you stay loyal? Drop your thoughts below, because this decision isn't as simple as some people want to make it. If the WNBA had welcomed her with open arms, these external threats might be easier to dismiss. But that's not what happened. From the moment she stepped on the court, it was open season. We all saw Diana Taurasi go on ESPN during the Final Four and warn that reality was coming for Caitlin Clark. It didn't sound like advice, it sounded like a threat. Then came the games. We watched Clark get picked up full court at 94 feet. We saw her get hammered in the paint with no calls. The Kennedy Carter shoulder check wasn't a basketball play, it was a message. And Stephen A. Smith absolutely exploded after that incident. He demanded to know where her teammates were. He questioned why the league wasn't protecting the player who was literally saving their business. The narrative became impossible to ignore. The WNBA veterans didn't want to pass the torch. They wanted to extinguish it. You were onto something when you noticed this pattern. Every hard foul, every non-call, every dismissive comment from the old guard, it all built toward one conclusion. They resented her success instead of celebrating it. This environment of hostility makes an exit strategy look very appealing. Why stay in a workplace where your colleagues resent you, bringing in millions of dollars that will eventually increase their own salaries, when you could theoretically go somewhere else, be treated like the asset you are, and make exponentially more money? The calculus changes. But this isn't the first time someone tried to lure Clark away. Remember Ice Cube's Big Three offer. He publicly offered Caitlin Clark $5 million to play just 8 games in his 3-on-3 league. $5 million. That's more than she'll make in her entire 4-year WNBA contract. At the time, she turned it down. She wanted to prove herself in the W. She wanted to chase a championship. That was before the sustained hazing. That was before the relentless media circus questioning whether she was being treated fairly. That was before watching her own league fail to protect her while she was generating record revenue. The landscape has shifted, and according to sources, the Saudi interest makes Ice Cube's offer look like a signing bonus. Ice Cube proved the market value was there. He showed that someone would pay her what she's actually worth. The difference with the Saudi Public Investment Fund reports is scale and infrastructure. If these reports have any validity, we're not talking about a side hustle. We're talking about a full league replacement with global reach, luxury travel, no salary cap limitations, and addressed every complaint WNBA players have had for years. Let's flip perspectives and look at this from Commissioner Kathy Engelbert's office. If these reports circulating have any truth to them, she's staring down a catastrophe. The WNBA is currently in the middle of negotiating a massive new media rights deal. They're asking for billions from networks like Disney, Amazon, and NBC. Their entire pitch rests on one foundation, the Caitlin Clark effect. They're showing networks the graphs, the skyrocketing viewership, the sold-out arenas, the social media engagement, and they're saying pay us for this growth trajectory. But here's the vulnerability that Stephen A. keeps highlighting. If Caitlin Clark announces she's entertaining offers from a rival league, that entire negotiating position evaporates instantly. The networks aren't writing billion-dollar checks for the WNBA without Clark. They're investing in the Clark show. If she exits, the TV deal collapses. If the TV deal collapses, the revenue sharing that all those veterans who hazed her were counting on disappears. It's the ultimate karmic irony. By alienating the one player who brought the transformational money, they may have cost themselves their own future earnings. Stephen, a Smith has hinted at exactly this scenario. You don't bite the hand that feeds you and expect to keep eating. The veterans thought they were defending their territory. They might have just burned down their own house. Now we need to address the controversy because anytime Saudi investment enters the conversation, critics emerge immediately. We heard it with LIV Golf. We heard it with Cristiano Ronaldo joining the Saudi Pro League. And we'll hear it here. The accusations of sports washing, of using athletic competition to rehabilitate a country's international image. But here's what Stephen A. often brings up when this debate surfaces. Morality doesn't pay the mortgage. When NBA players sign deals with Chinese companies, when entire leagues take money from countries with questionable human rights records, the outrage is selective and temporary. Golfers took Saudi money, and after 6 months of criticism, everyone adjusted. For female athletes, this moral dilemma carries extra weight because they've been systematically underpaid for decades. Can we really judge a WNBA player for accepting a life-changing offer when her current employer values her at $76,000 annually? The fans might debate this on social media, but history proves that fans ultimately follow the talent. If Caitlin Clark and other top players are competing under a different banner, viewership will follow. The outrage is temporary. Generational wealth is permanent. And for players who've watched their male counterparts make 50 times their salary for decades, the moral calculation becomes very personal. The social media community is buzzing about what a breakaway league structure might look like. The speculation centers on a touring model rather than traditional city-based teams. Imagine Clark and other stars traveling to major international cities, London, Tokyo, Dubai, New York, playing high-stakes tournaments and exhibition matches that focus entirely on the spectacle rather than grinding through an 82-game regular season that casual fans ignore. This model would eliminate the attendance problem for smaller market teams. It would focus marketing resources on must-see events rather than Tuesday night games in Connecticut. By bringing in players like Sophie Cunningham, you secure the social media amplification. The chemistry between players becomes part of the narrative, not just the game results. This touring model is particularly dangerous for the WNBA because it steals the casual fan. The die-hard supporters might remain loyal, but the millions of new fans who only started watching because of Caitlin Clark, they're going wherever she goes. If she announces a partnership under any external banner, the WNBA risks becoming a developmental league for the real show. What makes these rumors more credible is the silence. Usually, when outlandish speculation surfaces, agents shut it down immediately to avoid distractions. But we haven't heard denials. Caitlin Clark's representation hasn't issued a statement saying this is nonsense. Sophie Cunningham's camp is quiet. And Stephen A. Smith is amplifying the conversation rather than dismissing it. In the sports world, connecting the dots reveals that silence often equals ongoing negotiations. They can't announce anything until contracts allow or seasons conclude. But the absence of a firm no speaks volumes. They're either using these external offers as leverage against the WNBA, or they're seriously considering their options. Consider the timing as well. The WNBA season is physically brutal. The travel conditions remain challenging. The salary limitations are frustrating. As the season progresses and the physical toll accumulates, the theoretical appeal of private jets and transformational financial security becomes harder to dismiss. The silence suggests that players are finally realizing they hold more power than the league wants to admit. So, where does this leave us? We're standing at a potential inflection point in women's sports history. Stephen A. Smith has laid out the scenario clearly. The WNBA had an opportunity to embrace their future, and instead they allowed jealousy and outdated thinking to create vulnerability. The reported Saudi interest, Mike's, whether it materializes into actual offers or not, represents something bigger. It's proof that the market recognizes value even when the establishment doesn't. The question isn't whether Caitlin Clark should leave. The question is whether the WNBA will do what's necessary to make staying the obviously better choice. And right now, based on everything we've seen, they're not even close. If you found this analysis valuable, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on because this story is far from over. We'll be tracking every development as the WNBA's media rights negotiations progress, and as these external investment rumors either materialize or fade away. What happens next could reshape women's basketball forever. Would you take a massive external offer if you were in Clark's position? Or would you stick with the league despite the disrespect? Your perspective matters because this debate is about more than one player. It's about what we value in sports and what we're willing to accept. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.